Hamilton was not supposed to be that high. Not with a Ferrari that had lost its balance overnight. Not after the engineers went from confidence to confusion. Not after Leclerc, the home hero, pushed for the lap Ferrari needed and ended up in the barriers. On Friday, Ferrari looked like the team to beat in Monaco. Hamilton was fastest. Leclerc was right behind him. The car looked alive, sharp, and ready for pole. Then qualifying arrived and something broke. Not visibly. Worse. The feeling disappeared. Hamilton said the car had taken a step backward. The changes had been minimal. The team did not fully understand why the performance had vanished. And in Monaco, when the car stops giving confidence, the walls start getting closer. But then Hamilton did something that stunned the garage. He dragged that damaged mystery to third. And that single lap created the question Ferrari cannot ignore. Was Hamilton's lap just a rescue act, or did it expose something much deeper about Ferrari's car, Leclerc's pressure, and the weakness hiding inside their season? Because the real answer is not in the lap time. It is in what Ferrari saw after he crossed the line. Subscribe to the channel. Monaco does not forgive confusion. That is why Ferrari's Friday mattered so much. Because before qualifying went wrong, before the radio tension, before Leclerc's crash, before Hamilton's lap became the most uncomfortable highlight of the day, Ferrari looked almost untouchable. Not just fast, convincing. And there is a difference. A fast car can appear for one run, one tire set, one perfect moment. But a convincing car looks calm in the driver's hands. It repeats its pace. It gives both sides of the garage the same message. It makes rivals look at the timing screen and realize this is not luck. That was Ferrari on Friday. Hamilton was fastest in second practice, with Leclerc just behind him. The gap between them was tiny, only 111 thousandths. And at Monaco, that kind of gap says something important. It says the car was not only working for one driver, it was working for both. That is when Ferrari's confidence started to feel dangerous. Because Monaco was supposed to be the circuit where the SF26 could hide its weaknesses and show its strengths. The long straights were not the main story. Raw engine power was not the main weapon. This was not about blasting past someone with speed down a straight. This was about balance, slow corners, grip, confidence. The kind of confidence that lets a driver brush the wall without thinking about the wall. The kind of confidence that lets the hands move before fear enters the mind. And Ferrari believed they had built exactly that. Their car was shorter, lighter, strong in low-speed sections, better suited to the narrow streets of the Principality than it had been to faster, more exposed circuits. Even the rivals seemed to know it. Lando Norris had already pointed toward Ferrari as the team likely to take pole because their low-speed performance looked better than anyone else's. That was not empty praise. That was a rival reading the shape of the weekend before it fully arrived. And this is where the pressure began. Because once everyone expects you to win in Monaco, second place already feels like a failure. Ferrari had not just arrived with a chance. They had arrived with a target on their back. Every lap from Hamilton and Leclerc added to the story. Every sector made the garage stand a little taller. Every clean run made the engineers believe they had found the perfect window. But here is the dangerous part. In Formula One, confidence can become a trap. When a car feels perfect on Friday, the team starts protecting that feeling. They do not want to disturb it. They do not want to chase unnecessary changes. They do not want to overthink what already works. So Ferrari did what any team would do. They kept the car close to where it was. Minimal changes. No dramatic shift. No obvious gamble. And that is what makes what happened next so disturbing. Because if Ferrari had changed everything overnight, the explanation would be simple. The team could point to the setup and say, we went too far. We chose the wrong direction. We missed the balance. But that was not the story. The car that looked alive on Friday became difficult on Saturday without a clear reason. The same machine that made Hamilton look comfortable suddenly forced him into survival mode. The same Ferrari that gave Leclerc a chance at a home pole began asking questions neither driver wanted to answer near the walls. That is the mystery that turns this weekend from a normal qualifying disappointment into something much more serious. Ferrari did not just lose speed. They lost certainty. And in Monaco, certainty is everything. Imagine walking through your own house in the dark. If you know where every chair, every door, and every step is, you can move quickly. You trust the space. You do not need to think about every movement. Now imagine someone quietly moves the furniture. Nothing looks broken. Nothing sounds wrong. But the moment you step forward, your body knows something has changed. That was Ferrari. The car was still a Ferrari. The circuit was still Monaco. The drivers were still Hamilton and Leclerc. But the feeling had moved. And once that feeling moves, the lap becomes a negotiation. The driver asks for more front grip, and the car hesitates. The driver asks the rear to stay planted, and it starts to whisper doubt. The driver breaks deep into the corner, and suddenly the confidence from Friday is not there anymore. That sounds small. It is not. At Monaco, a small doubt can become a full tenth. A full tenth can become a lost row. A lost row can become a race that is already slipping away before the lights go out. This is why Hamilton's Friday pace matters so much to the story. Because his qualifying lap did not come from nowhere. He had already shown the speed was real. He had already shown the car could be sharp. He had already been the benchmark inside Ferrari when the car was behaving. So when he reached qualifying and found a completely different feeling, he knew exactly what had been lost. That is worse than never having the pace. Because when a driver knows the car can be better, every corner becomes frustrating. Every slide feels like wasted potential. Every correction is a reminder that yesterday's Ferrari is gone. The garage turned from calm to urgent. Ferrari had gone from managing a favorites weekend to searching for a lost balance in real time. That is one of the hardest situations in Formula One because qualifying does not wait for explanations. The clock keeps moving. The track keeps changing. The pressure keeps rising. And every minute spent searching is a minute closer to elimination. Hamilton had to make emergency adjustments in the garage, including changes to the rear wing angle, trying to bring the car back into a window where he could attack. That detail matters, because when a team is adjusting in the middle of qualifying, it usually means the expected plan has already failed. They are no longer fine-tuning a weapon. They are trying to stop the bleeding. But here is the part that made Ferrari nervous. Hamilton later said he did not believe the team had gone in the wrong direction with setup. The changes had been minimal. That means this was not a simple story of Ferrari making one bad choice overnight. It was stranger than that. The car had lost performance without an obvious reason. That is the kind of problem engineers hate most. If you change something and the car gets worse, you can reverse it. If you break something, you can repair it. But if the car changes its behavior and nobody knows why, the problem becomes bigger than one session. It becomes a question about understanding. And Ferrari's entire Monaco weekend was suddenly built around that question. Why did the same car that looked so sharp on Friday become so difficult in qualifying? The answer was not clear in the moment. It could have been track temperature. It could have been tire behavior. It could have been the way rubber built up on the surface. It could have been pressure changes. It could have been the car's narrow working window, where everything feels perfect only when every condition lines up exactly right. But none of that helped Hamilton while he was driving. A driver cannot solve a mystery at full speed through Monaco. He can only feel the car, adjust his hands, control his braking, and decide how much risk he is willing to accept. And this is where the lap became special. Hamilton was not driving a Ferrari that gave him comfort. He was driving a Ferrari that was asking for compromise at every corner. Through the slow sections, the car needed precision. Under braking, it needed trust. On corner exit, it needed patience. And each time Hamilton asked for more, he had to judge whether the car would respond or punish him. That is a different kind of speed. Is not clean speed. Is controlled resistance. Is the kind of lap where the driver is not flowing with the car, but wrestling it just enough to keep the stopwatch alive. And then came the result. Third, 1 minute, 12.279 seconds. Not pole, not the front row. But after the collapse Ferrari had felt, third was almost unbelievable inside the circumstances. Because Hamilton had not delivered that lap from a place of comfort. He had delivered it from a place of damage control. The car had been at the limit. He had been at the limit. And somehow, he had extracted enough to keep Ferrari in the fight. That is what stunned the garage. The engineers were not just looking at a number. They were looking at the difference between what the car was giving and what Hamilton had pulled out of it. A normal third place can feel disappointing. This third place felt like evidence. Evidence that the SF-26 still had speed hiding inside it. Evidence that Hamilton could reach into a messy situation and make it look survivable. Evidence that Ferrari's biggest issue was not pure pace, but repeatability. And repeatability is the quiet foundation of every championship team. A car cannot only be fast when the conditions are kind. It has to be predictable when the pressure turns cruel. It has to behave in qualifying after looking good in practice. It has to give both drivers the confidence to attack when the track is at its most dangerous. Ferrari did not have that on Saturday. They had pace on Friday. They had confusion on Saturday. And Hamilton's lap sat right between those two truths. That is why this was not just a story about one incredible lap in Monaco. It was a story about control. Ferrari thought it had control of the weekend. The data suggested it. The rivals expected it. The drivers felt it. The garage believed it. Then qualifying exposed how quickly that control could disappear. And the most uncomfortable part was still coming. Because while Hamilton was somehow rescuing third from a car he did not fully trust, Leclerc was fighting the same mystery with the weight of Monaco on his shoulders. And that is where Ferrari's problems stopped being only technical. It became personal.